She fell asleep on a billionaire's shoulders without knowing his reaction changed her life. Picture the scene. A weary young woman boards a late-night train, her eyes heavy with fatigue, and as sleep takes over, her head gently lands on the shoulder of the man beside her. Little does she know, he's no ordinary passenger. He's a reclusive billionaire hiding in plain sight. His surprising response? It doesn't just wake her up, it awakens a chain of events that catapults her from struggle to success, love, and unimaginable fortune. Dive into this heart-pounding tale that's got everyone talking. You won't believe what happens next. Hey, story lover! Welcome to the Narrative Hub, Reddit Stories. Believe me, this adventure gets wild, but it's only epic with you. Seriously, you make this possible. Want more stories? Greater adventure? Smash subscribe right now. Smash like. Comment below. Let's go. Maya Chin clutched her worn duffel bag tighter as she stumbled through the cramped train car at 11:47 p.m. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting harsh shadows on the faces of late-night commuters. She'd been working 3 jobs for the past 8 months: morning shift at the coffee shop, afternoon tutoring sessions, and evening cleaning offices downtown. Tonight, she was finally heading home after a particularly brutal 16-hour day. Her eyes burned with exhaustion as she scanned for an empty seat. The train was packed with the usual mix of night shift workers, college students, and business travelers trying to save money by avoiding first-class tickets. Finally, she spotted a single vacant seat next to a man in a simple gray hoodie and worn jeans. "Excuse me," she whispered, sliding past him into the window seat. He looked up briefly, dark eyes, stubbled jaw, maybe mid-30s, and gave her a polite nod before returning to his book. Nothing remarkable about him except maybe how he seemed to radiate this quiet confidence that made the cramped space feel a little less suffocating. Maya pulled out her phone to check her bank balance one more time. $47.23. Rent was due in 3 days, and she was still $200 short. Her stomach twisted with anxiety as she stared at the number. She'd already sold her laptop, her grandmother's ring, and half her clothes. What else could she possibly? The train lurched forward, and her eyelids grew impossibly heavy. She fought sleep for maybe 10 minutes, her head bobbing as she tried to stay upright. But the exhaustion was winning, and slowly, inevitably, her head drifted sideways until it came to rest against something warm and solid. The stranger's shoulder. 20 minutes later, Maya stirred awake to the gentle rumble of the train wheels. She became aware of 3 things simultaneously. First, she was using someone as a human pillow. Second, that someone was letting her. And third, he was very, very still, as if he'd been careful not to wake her. She jerked upright, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to." "It's fine," he said quietly, his voice deeper than she'd expected. There was something in his tone, not irritation, but genuine kindness. "You looked like you needed the sleep." Maya noticed he'd been holding his book at an awkward angle, clearly trying not to disturb her. "You could have woken me up. I feel terrible." "Why?" He closed his book. She caught a glimpse of the title, Advanced Corporate Acquisition Strategies. Weird bedtime reading. Sometimes we all need someone to lean on. Something about the way he said it made her look at him more carefully. His clothes were simple, but they fit perfectly. His watch looked expensive but understated. And there was something in his manner, the way he commanded space without trying, that seemed almost important. "I'm Maya," she offered, still mortified but curious now. "Marcus," he replied. "Where are you headed?" "Home. Well, my apartment. Though I might not have it much longer." She hadn't meant to say that last part, but exhaustion had lowered her filter. Marcus studied her face for a moment. "Rough times?" Maya let out a bitter laugh. "You could say that. Working myself to death trying to make ends meet, and it's still not enough. But hey, at least I'm consistent at failing, right?" What happened next would replay in Maya's mind for years to come. Marcus didn't offer empty platitudes or awkward sympathy. Instead, he asked, "What do you do?" "For work, I mean." Barista, tutor, office cleaner. The holy trinity of barely making rent. She shrugged. "I have a degree in business administration, but apparently that and $5 will get you a fancy coffee." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, but she could sense him thinking. The train began to slow as it approached the next station. "This is my stop," he said, gathering his things. But instead of leaving, he pulled out his phone and typed something quickly. "Maya, I want you to go to this address tomorrow at 10 a.m. He showed her his screen, an address in the city's financial district. "Ask for Sarah Rodriguez. Tell her Marcus sent you." Maya stared at the address, confusion written across her face. "I don't understand. What's there?" But Marcus was already standing, slinging a leather messenger bag over his shoulder. "Sometimes the universe puts people where they need to be," he said. "Consider it payment for the comfortable shoulder." "Wait," Maya called as he moved toward the train doors. "I don't even know your last name." He paused in the doorway as the train came to a complete stop. For the first time, he smiled, a real smile that transformed his entire face. "Chin," he said. "Marcus Chin." And then he was gone, disappearing into the crowd on the platform, leaving Maya staring at an address that would change everything. The next morning, Maya stood outside a gleaming 40-story tower in downtown Seattle, staring up at the golden letters across the entrance, Chin Enterprises. Her stomach dropped as the pieces clicked into place. Marcus Chin. She'd fallen asleep on Marcus Chin. The Marcus Chin. The 28-year-old tech mogul who'd built a fortune developing AI software for major corporations. The same Marcus Chin who'd been featured on the cover of Forbes 3 months ago as the billionaire next door for his habit of flying commercial and living modestly despite his net worth. Maya's hands shook as she pushed through the revolving doors into a lobby that screamed wealth and power. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, and security guards who looked like they could bench press small cars. "I'm here to see Sarah Rodriguez," she managed to tell the receptionist, a polished woman who probably earned more in a month than Maya made in 6. "Marcus sent me." The receptionist's entire demeanor shifted at the mention of his name. "Of course. Please take the express elevator to the 38th floor. Ms. Rodriguez is expecting you." "Expecting me?" Maya thought as she stepped into an elevator that probably cost more than her annual income. How could she be expecting me when I didn't even know I was coming until 12 hours ago? The 38th floor was a maze of glass offices and bustling assistants. Sarah Rodriguez turned out to be a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s with the kind of confidence that came from making million-dollar decisions before breakfast. "Maya Chin, no relation, I assume?" Sarah said with a wry smile, gesturing for Maya to sit in a leather chair that probably cost more than her rent. "None whatsoever. And honestly, I have no idea why I'm here." Sarah's smile widened. "Marcus called me at 6 a.m. He said, and I quote, 'I need you to create a position for someone. Business development coordinator. 80,000 starting salary. She has the instincts, she just needs the opportunity.'" Maya's world tilted sideways. 80,000? Plus benefits, of course. And if you're anything like Marcus described, you'll be making 6 figures within a year. Sarah leaned forward. "He said you have something most MBAs spend years trying to develop, the ability to see what people actually need." "Based on what?" "A 20-minute train conversation. Based on the fact that you didn't ask him for anything. Not his number, not his money, not even his last name. In his world, that's rarer than you might think." Maya's mind raced. This had to be some kind of mistake, or worse, charity. "I can't accept this. I don't even know what business development means." Sarah stood up and walked to the window overlooking the city. "Marcus built this company on calculated risks. He doesn't make mistakes when it comes to people. And between you and me, she turned back to Maya. He's been looking for someone to head up a new division. Someone who understands what it's like to fight for every dollar. Someone who won't be impressed by his money. A new division? Chin Enterprises is launching a microloan program for small businesses and individuals who can't get traditional bank loans. We need someone who's lived that struggle to run it. Sarah's eyes gleamed. Interested in managing a $100 million fund? 6 weeks later, Maya sat in her corner office on the 35th floor, still pinching herself every morning. She'd thrown herself into the microloan division with the desperation of someone who knew exactly what it felt like to count every penny. Her first month's approvals had helped launch a food truck business, fund a single mother's nursing school tuition, and save 3 small shops from closing. But she hadn't seen Marcus since that night on the train. He was like a ghost in his own building. Everyone talked about him, but he seemed to work from some secret floor or invisible office. Until the day everything went sideways. Maya was reviewing loan applications when Sarah burst into her office, her usual composure completely shattered. "We have a problem," Sarah said, closing the door behind her. "A big one." "What's wrong?" Marcus's ex-business partner just launched a hostile takeover attempt. Richard Blackstone, the tech vulture who destroys companies for profit, he's claiming Marcus stole proprietary software when they split 5 years ago. Maya's blood ran cold. She'd heard of Richard Blackstone, the kind of corporate raider who bought companies just to strip them for parts. Is it true? Of course not. But Blackstone has lawyers, money, and a media machine. The stock price dropped 30% in the last hour. The board is panicking. Where's Marcus? Sarah's expression grew even grimmer. That's the problem. He's disappeared. No one's seen him since yesterday. His lawyers can't reach him, the board can't reach him, and without his leadership right now. She trailed off, but Maya understood. The company could collapse. Maya stared out her window at the city below, the same view Marcus must have had from whatever mysterious office he worked from. Somewhere out there, the man who'd changed her life was facing the fight of his own. "Sarah," Maya said slowly, "I need to find him." "Maya, this isn't your problem. You've been here 6 weeks. 6 weeks ago, I was cleaning other people's offices. Now I'm managing millions of dollars because he saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself." Maya grabbed her jacket. "That man didn't just give me a job. He gave me a purpose. And I'll be damned if I'm going to sit here while someone tries to destroy what he's built." But finding a billionaire who didn't want to be found? That was going to require thinking like someone who understood what it meant to disappear. Maya's first instinct was to check the train. It was a long shot, but something about that night had felt important to Marcus too, the way he'd talked about the universe putting people where they needed to be. If he was hiding somewhere, maybe he'd go back to where it all started. She caught the 10:47 p.m. train, the same one from 6 weeks ago, and rode it to the end of the line and back. Nothing. But as she was getting off at the downtown station, she spotted something that made her heart race. A homeless shelter volunteer was handing out meals from the back of a van parked across the street. And there, in line with the others, wearing the same gray hoodie and worn jeans from that first night, was Marcus Chin. Maya's breath caught in her throat. She watched from a distance as he took a meal, sat on a bench with a man who looked like he hadn't seen a shower in weeks, and listened listened as the man talked. This wasn't some billionaire doing charity work for publicity. This was someone who genuinely cared. She approached carefully, not wanting to spook him. "Mind if I sit?" Marcus looked up, and for the first time in 6 weeks, she saw him smile. "I wondered if you'd figure it out. Your company is falling apart. Your lawyers are going crazy. And you're here." Marcus handed the other man some cash, way more than anyone would normally give, and the man shuffled away with grateful mumbles. "Sometimes you have to step back to see the whole picture," Marcus said. Blackstone thinks he's attacking my company. He's not. He's attacking everything I've built to help people like us. People like us? Marcus was quiet for a moment, staring at the city lights. I wasn't always Marcus Chin, CEO. 10 years ago, I was Marcus Chin, living in my car and showering at the YMCA. I built this company because I remembered what it felt like to count quarters for food. Maya's world shifted again. You were homeless. For 8 months. Lost my first startup, lost my apartment, lost everything. The only thing that kept me going was the kindness of strangers. People who had nothing but still shared what they had. He looked at her. People like you, who fall asleep on random shoulders and trust that the universe will catch them. So what's the plan? You can't hide here forever. Marcus smiled, that same transformative smile from the train. Who says I'm hiding? I'm gathering intelligence. See that guy over there? He nodded toward a man in an expensive suit talking on his phone by the shelter van. He's been watching this place for 3 hours. Blackstone's people are everywhere, trying to find dirt on me. They think if they can prove I'm still connected to undesirable elements, they can destroy my credibility. Maya felt a chill of understanding. They're documenting your charitable work to use it against you. Exactly. But here's what they don't know. Marcus pulled out his phone and showed her the screen. Every conversation I've had tonight has been with people I've helped through your microloan program. And they're not just grateful. They're angry. Really angry that someone's trying to hurt the man who gave them a chance. Maya stared at the phone. Marcus had been collecting testimonials, building a counter-narrative. You're going to turn this whole thing around. We are, Marcus corrected. I need you to coordinate something. Think you can handle managing a grassroots media campaign while running a $100 million division? Before Maya could answer, her phone buzzed with an unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her pick up. Maya Chin. The voice was smooth, confident, and somehow threatening. Yes! This is Richard Blackstone. We need to talk. 20 minutes later, Maya sat in the back of a black SUV that had pulled up to the shelter like something out of a spy movie. Richard Blackstone was exactly what she'd expected: silver hair, $1,000 suit, the kind of smile that preceded bad news. Miss Chin, he said, settling across from her as the SUV pulled into traffic. I have a proposition for you. I'm listening. Maya kept her voice steady, though her heart was hammering. You're the face of Marcus's little charity project. The rags to riches story he's been peddling to the media. But what if I told you that your position is built on stolen technology? That every dollar you're lending out is tainted? I'd say you're full of it. Blackstone chuckled. Direct. I like that. Here's what I know. Marcus Chin stole AI algorithms from our shared research 5 years ago. I have emails, code samples, and witness testimony. When this comes out, and it will, Chin Enterprises will collapse overnight. Maya felt sick, but she forced herself to stay calm. What do you want? Walk away. Publicly distance yourself from Marcus and his company. In return, I'll offer you a position at Blackstone Industries. Same salary, better benefits, and you won't go down with a sinking ship. The SUV stopped at a red light, and Maya could see people walking past on the sidewalk, normal people living normal lives, unaware that the next few minutes might determine the fate of a company that had helped thousands of them. And if I refuse? Blackstone's smile turned cold. Then you'll go down with him. And all those people you think you're helping? They'll lose everything when the truth comes out. Maya thought about Marcus sitting on that bench, listening to a homeless man's problems. She thought about the single mother who'd called her yesterday, crying with gratitude because the loan had let her start her catering business. She thought about the way Marcus had let her sleep on his shoulder without complaint. Mr. Blackstone, Maya said, reaching for the door handle, you clearly don't know who you're dealing with. Excuse me. You think I care about money? About my career? 6 weeks ago, I was cleaning toilets and living on ramen noodles. You want to threaten me with poverty? I'm an expert at being poor. She opened the door as the light turned green. And you want to destroy the man who saw potential in an exhausted girl on a train? Good luck with that. She stepped out onto the sidewalk, and the SUV sped away, leaving her standing under a streetlight with her phone already dialing Marcus's number. He offered you what? Marcus's voice was incredulous when Maya told him about her midnight ride with Blackstone. They were back on the train, sitting in the same seats where it all began, planning their counterattack. Maya had insisted they meet here. Something about the place felt like neutral ground, away from corporate boardrooms and power plays. 200,000 a year, full benefits, and all I had to do was publicly call you a thief. Maya shook her head. The man clearly doesn't understand loyalty. Marcus was quiet for a moment, staring out the window at the city lights blurring past. Maya, there's something you need to know. About the technology Blackstone claims I stole. Maya's stomach dropped. Please tell me you didn't actually. The opposite. Marcus turned to face her. Blackstone stole from me. 5 years ago, we were partners developing AI software for financial institutions. I did 90% of the coding work, but he handled the business side. When we were ready to launch, he kicked me out and filed the patents under his name. Why didn't you fight it? I was 23, broke, and he had a team of lawyers. I couldn't afford to fight a billionaire. Marcus's jaw tightened. So I started over. Built new software from scratch, better than anything we'd worked on together. That software became the foundation of Chen Enterprises. But if you can prove he stole from you first. That's the problem. All my original work was on his servers. When he kicked me out, I lost access to everything. No proof, no evidence, just my word against his. Maya felt the train beginning to slow as they approached her stop. But instead of gathering her things, she stayed seated, her mind racing. Marcus, she said slowly, what if the proof isn't gone? What if it's just hidden? What do you mean? You said you did the coding work. Programmers always leave fingerprints in their code, coding styles, comment patterns, naming conventions. If Blackstone has been using your original algorithms for 5 years. Marcus's eyes widened as he caught on. Then his current software should still contain traces of my work. Exactly. And if we can prove the timeline, show that your new software actually predates his patents, we destroy his entire case. Marcus grabbed her hand, and Maya felt an electric shock at the contact. Maya, you're brilliant. But getting access to Blackstone's proprietary code? That's impossible. Maya smiled, and for the first time in her life, she felt dangerous. Maybe for a billionaire CEO. But for a broke college graduate with flexible morals and access to the building cleaning service that Blackstone Industries uses, that's just Tuesday night. 48 hours later, Maya crouched in the shadows of Blackstone Industries' server room, her heart pounding so hard she was sure the security cameras could pick up the sound. The cleaning staff had checked this room an hour ago. She had maybe 20 minutes before the next sweep. She plugged in the USB drive Marcus had given her, a sophisticated piece of tech that could copy terabytes of data in minutes. But as the progress bar crawled across the screen, she heard footsteps in the hallway. Heavy footsteps. Security guard footsteps. Maya yanked out the USB, only 67% complete, and shoved it into her pocket just as the door opened. A massive security guard filled the doorway, his hand already moving toward his radio. Ma'am, you're not supposed to be in here. Sorry. Maya held up her mop bucket with shaking hands. Spilled some cleaning solution earlier. Just making sure I got it all up. The guard studied her face suspiciously. Maya forced herself to breathe normally, to look like nothing more than a minimum wage worker trying not to get fired. What's your name? He asked. Maya's mind went blank. She couldn't give her real name. If Blackstone connected her to Marcus, it would destroy everything. But she needed a name, and she needed it now. Sarah Rodriguez, she blurted out, using the first name that came to mind. The guard checked his tablet, scrolling through what looked like a staff directory. Maya held her breath, knowing that in about 3 seconds, he'd realized Sarah Rodriguez wasn't a cleaning lady. That's when the fire alarm went off. Deafening klaxons filled the air and emergency lights began flashing. The guard's radio crackled to life with urgent voices reporting smoke on the 14th floor. Building evacuation, the guard shouted over the noise, already moving past Maya toward the stairs. Move. No. Maya didn't need to be told twice. She grabbed her bucket and ran for the nearest exit, the USB drive burning like a coal in her pocket. Only as she reached the lobby did she realize that the timing of that fire alarm was too convenient to be coincidence. Outside, amid the chaos of evacuating office workers and fire trucks, she spotted a familiar figure in a maintenance worker's uniform, calmly walking away from the building. Marcus caught her eye and winked. A smoke machine in the ventilation system? Maya laughed despite her terror as they sat in Marcus's actual office, a surprisingly modest space on the 40th floor with a view of the entire city. You could have just told me you had a plan. Where's the fun in that? Marcus was hunched over his computer, analyzing the data they'd managed to steal. Besides, I needed to see if you could think on your feet under pressure. Consider it a job interview. I thought sleeping on your shoulder was my job interview. Marcus looked up from the screen, and something passed between them, an acknowledgement of everything that had led to this moment. Maya, what I'm about to show you, it's going to change everything. Are you ready? She nodded, and Marcus turned his monitor toward her. The screen showed 2 pieces of code side by side, timestamped and analyzed. On the left is the algorithm Blackstone filed his patent for. On the right is code I wrote 7 years ago, during our partnership. Marcus pointed to specific lines. Same variable names, same comment structure, even the same typo in line 847. Maya stared at the screen. He didn't just steal your work. He literally copied and pasted it. It gets better. The metadata shows his original work was created on my old laptop, the one I left in his office when he kicked me out. He's been using my technology for 5 years, making billions off my work, and now he wants to claim I stole from him. Maya felt a surge of righteous fury. We have him. We have him, Marcus agreed. But Maya, once we release this, things are going to get ugly. Blackstone won't go down quietly. He'll come after anyone connected to me, including you. Maya thought about her old life, the constant stress, the empty bank account, the feeling of being invisible in a world that didn't care if she succeeded or failed. Then she thought about the past 6 weeks, the purpose, the impact, the way it felt to actually matter. Marcus, she said, do you know what I was thinking about on the train that night? Right before I fell asleep. He shook his head. I was wondering if I was brave enough to jump. Maya's voice was steady, matter of fact. Not literally, but jump into a life where I mattered. Where I wasn't just surviving, but actually living. Marcus went very still. You gave me that jump. You saw something in an exhausted stranger that no one else ever bothered to look for. So if Blackstone wants a fight. Maya smiled, and it was fierce and beautiful and utterly fearless. He's about to learn what happens when you mess with people who have nothing left to lose. The press conference was scheduled for 3 p.m. the next day. By 2:30 p.m., the Chin Enterprises lobby was packed with reporters, camera crews, and enough media attention to power a small city. Maya stood beside Marcus at the podium, wearing the one professional dress she owned and trying not to throw up from nerves. Sarah had suggested she stay in the background, but Marcus had insisted she be front and center. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus began, his voice carrying easily through the packed room. 48 hours ago, Richard Blackstone accused me of stealing technology that forms the backbone of Chin Enterprises. Today, I'm here to show you the truth. The presentation was devastating. Marcus laid out the evidence methodically, code comparisons, timestamps, metadata, Witness testimony from former Blackstone employees who'd grown disgusted with his tactics. By the time he finished, the room was buzzing with the kind of energy that preceded major scandal. But Maya could see Blackstone's people in the crowd, and they didn't look defeated. They looked ready for war. "Mr. Chin," called out a reporter from the financial press, "Mr. Blackstone's representatives have stated that this evidence is fabricated. How do you respond to accusations that you've staged this entire controversy to boost your company's profile?" Maya felt Marcus tense beside her. They'd expected this. Blackstone's strategy would be to claim the evidence was fake, forcing them into months of legal battles while his media machine destroyed Marcus's reputation. That's when Maya stepped forward to the microphone. "I'd like to answer that," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the room. A murmur went through the crowd. Most people had no idea who she was. 6 weeks ago, I was working 3 jobs just to afford ramen noodles. I fell asleep on this man's shoulder during a train ride, and instead of being annoyed, he offered me an opportunity that changed my life. Not because he wanted something from me, but because he saw potential where others saw problems. Maya looked directly at the camera that she knew was broadcasting live. "Mr. Blackstone has accused Marcus of theft. But I've seen Marcus's work firsthand. I've seen him invest in people that banks won't touch, fund dreams that venture capitalists ignore, and build a company that actually gives a damn about making the world better. So you want to know if this evidence is real?" She pulled out her own laptop and connected it to the presentation system. "Here's security footage from Blackstone Industries 2 nights ago, showing me in their server room. Here's the metadata from the files I copied directly from their systems. And here." Maya's fingers flew across the keyboard. "Is the real-time analysis proving that everything Marcus just showed you came straight from Blackstone's own computers?" The room erupted in chaos. Reporters shouted questions, cameras flashed, and Maya could see Blackstone's representatives frantically making phone calls. But Maya wasn't done. "Mr. Blackstone," she said, her voice cutting through the noise, "you offered me $200,000 to betray the man who believed in me. You thought I could be bought because I was poor. But here's something you never learned. People who've been broke understand the difference between money and worth. And Marcus Chin? He's worth 1,000 of you." By 6 p.m., Richard Blackstone had withdrawn his lawsuit and issued a public apology. By 8 p.m., 3 federal agencies had announced investigations into his business practices. By 10 p.m., Chin Enterprises stock had reached an all-time high. Maya sat in Marcus's office, watching the sunset paint the city in shades of gold and crimson. The past 72 hours felt like a fevered dream, from cleaning lady turned corporate spy to the woman who'd helped save a billion-dollar company. "So," Marcus said, settling into the chair across from her, "how does it feel to be the most talked-about business development coordinator in Seattle?" "Surreal. Terrifying. Amazing." Maya laughed. "I keep waiting to wake up and find out this was all some elaborate dream." "Maya," Marcus said quietly, "there's something else I need to tell you. About that night on the train." Her stomach fluttered. "What about it?" "It wasn't chance. I'd been watching you for weeks." Maya's world tilted again. "What?" "You'd been cleaning the Chin Enterprises building for 3 months. I'd seen you working the way you treated everyone with respect, how you never cut corners even when no one was watching. I started taking the late train hoping to run into you." You planned the whole thing?" Marcus held up his hands. "Not the sleeping part. That was genuine exhaustion on your part. But sitting next to you? That was intentional. I wanted to see who you really were when you weren't in work mode." Maya stared at him, processing this revelation. "You mean?" "I mean, I'd already decided to offer you a job before your head ever touched my shoulder. Falling asleep just confirmed what I already knew. You're someone who trusts the world to catch you. That's rare in my line of work." Maya should have been angry about the manipulation. Instead, she found herself laughing. So the mysterious billionaire was actually stalking the cleaning lady? Researching, Marcus corrected with a grin. Very different thing. And the microloan division? I'd been planning it for months, but I needed the right person to run it. Someone who understood the struggle. Marcus leaned forward. Maya, in 6 weeks, you've approved more successful loans than most banks manage in a year. You've saved 17 small businesses and changed 34 lives. That's not luck, that's instinct. Maya felt tears threatening, but they were happy tears. So what happens now? Do I go back to being a business development coordinator, or do I get promoted to corporate spy? Marcus was quiet for a moment, and when he spoke, his voice was different, softer, more vulnerable. Actually, I was hoping you might consider a different position entirely. Oh. Marcus stood up and walked to the window, his back to her. Maya, what if I told you that everything I've built, the company, the success, the fortune, none of it matters compared to finding someone who sees the world the way you do? Maya's heart stopped. Marcus. He turned around, and she could see something in his eyes that hadn't been there before. Something that looked like hope mixed with fear. I'm not good at this, he said. I can run a company, negotiate deals, build algorithms. But asking someone if they'd like to be my partner in everything, that's terrifying. Maya stood up slowly, her legs shaking. Is that what you're asking? I'm asking if you'd like to help me change the world. As equals. As partners. Marcus took a step closer. I'm asking if you'd like to fall asleep on my shoulder every night for the rest of our lives. Maya looked at this man who'd seen her potential when she was at her lowest point, who'd trusted her with millions of dollars and his company's future, who'd let her sleep peacefully during the worst period of her life. Marcus Chin, she said, closing the distance between them, you had me at it's fine. 6 months later, Maya stood in the same train car where everything had started, but this time she wasn't exhausted, she was nervous. The microloan division had grown from a $100 million experiment to a billion-dollar institution that had helped over 10,000 people start businesses, buy homes, and change their lives. And tonight, Marcus was planning to propose. She knew because he was terrible at keeping secrets from her. The man who could negotiate billion-dollar deals without blinking couldn't hide his excitement about the ring he'd been designing for weeks. The train pulled into the station where Marcus had first gotten off, and Maya smiled as she saw him waiting on the platform. Not in a business suit this time, but in the same gray hoodie and jeans from that first night. Some things, he said as he sat down beside her, are worth recreating. Are you going to let me fall asleep on your shoulder again? Actually, Marcus said, his voice shaking slightly with nerves, I was hoping you might let me fall asleep on yours. For the next 60 years or so. Maya looked at the ring box he was pulling from his pocket, simple, elegant, and somehow perfect. She thought about the journey that had brought them here, from a moment of accidental intimacy to a partnership that had already changed thousands of lives. Marcus Chin, she said, taking the ring box from his hands, I thought you'd never ask. As the train pulled away from the station, carrying them toward whatever came next, Maya realized that sometimes the best things in life happen when you're brave enough to let your guard down, trust a stranger, and fall asleep on the right shoulder at exactly the right time.